We are back with another live episode of Bully Ball on the Gold Standard Podcast Network. I'm Jason Aponte, joined as always by Steph Sanchez. Steph, how was your Memorial Day weekend?
It was great. It was my girlfriend's birthday, and we just celebrated pretty much the whole weekend. It was a lot of fun. How about yours?
It was pretty awesome. Avery got to get to the pool finally, and that was a lot of fun for her. For the people that follow me on Instagram, you got a chance to see her stylish bathing suit, which I did not. I mean, I had nothing to do with, but I did start a show that I think. Are you familiar with? I think you should leave.
No, but I'm familiar with the memes from it.
Perfect. Perfect. So that's what got me, right?
Is it good?
And oh, it's hilarious,
Okay,
honestly.
I want
So
to
for you
watch it.
guys, if you don't know what I think you should leave is, it's I believe the guy's name is Tim Robinson.
Robin's, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Tim Robinson. And if you haven't seen the memes, you see the guy, you sure about that? You sure about that? And the other one,
He also
I
has the
didn't
other one. I didn't do
I didn't do
this.
this. I didn't
I'm
do
not
any.
worried
No,
about
I'm
it.
not worried about it yet. So stuff. That's the one. That's the one that got me. And the
Yes.
sketch name is called Coffin Flop. So basically, the sketch opens. You know how if you have a cable service and they say this channel's leaving. Like, let your subscriber know you want this channel back.
Mm-hmm.
And it was he's talking about a show on Corncob TV, which is called Coffin Flop, where there's literally pallbearers, they're holding coffins and bodies are falling out of it. And that's what that's from, is what he's talking about. That so this isn't a plug for Netflix or that show, but Steph, watch the entirety of that sketch and it makes the meme even funnier. I've had a blast watching all of these sketches. He's
All right,
insane, that
I'm
guy.
gonna watch it. I'm gonna
All
watch
right, cool. Anyway, not what you're here for. Thank you guys for joining us live. I wanted to let time go by so you guys can jump in. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to all three of our channels, a Gold Standard Network, Steph's channel, Steph 49K, my channel as well too. But we're here to talk 49ers, and Brock Purdy is actually going to be throwing a football and not a towel. Not that he was throwing the towel in, but he was doing some very violent towel throws. But he's actually going to be throwing a football. And I wanted to make a quick joke before we get into the actual analysis. The guy who put in the internal brace, why is it not funnier that we're not discussing his name, Keith Meister? Like the Keith Meister, like that, like Meister. Why is that your last name, bro?
Jesus Christ.
All right. Either way, whatever. Bad joke. Keith Meister puts in the internal brace, and we're gonna see Brock Purdy actually throw a football this week. Sounds like he's on schedule, right?
Yeah, it does, and that's a good sign. He might even be slightly ahead of schedule, which is an even better sign. And I think that's why there was so much optimism around, Kyle Shanahan talking about Brock Purdy. And Brock Purdy didn't want to have that same amount of optimism, which I get. I think he's just taking it day by day, as he said, which as he should, right? But I think it's a good thing that Kyle Shanahan feels that Brock Purdy should be ready to participate in some capacity by training camp. So when people say like he's going to be back training camp, it doesn't mean he's going to be fully cleared. I think we all know this, but he will probably be participating in some capacity because at that point he'll be well into his throwing program.
And when you listen to Kyle Shanahan speak, the optimism sounds like it's turning into certainty a
A
little bit
little
more
bit.
and more. The
Yeah.
way things are going, they feel very, very happy with his progress, and that's a good thing. I want
Yeah.
to make sure we say this again.
No, I was
No,
gonna
but
say like this is like a big test. Like this is
yes.
probably the biggest milestone so far in his recovery. Because like once you start throwing an actual football, you're gonna feel a different stress on your elbow than maybe you would when you're throwing a towel, right? Which he's been doing to this point. And then also, there might be some soreness that happens, or this is where if there is a setback, it could happen once he starts throwing, right? So this is kind of like, oh, we're on the edge of our seats, kind of waiting to see like, okay, what happens now? Because this is the truth. What will tell us if he will be ahead of schedule or if there's going to be a setback.
And best case scenario is that Brock is ready to go week one, and he's that guy from last season. And as much as we have discussed Trey Lance and Sam Darnold, best case scenario is that Brock is ready to roll. And that's it. I mean, I again, objectivity, not whatever you want to happen. Objectivity. Objectively, the best thing for the 49ers is Brock Purdy looks like that guy that he was last year, is ready to go week 1. And we have nothing else to discuss when it comes to all that other stuff. All that other stuff will play itself out one way or another. And I don't know how that'll play itself out, whether it's trades, whatever it is. That's a whole other discussion. But for this football team that is trying to win football games, and the way that this team is convicted, I can't let that joke go, in Brock Purdy, it's best that you just roll him out there, no controversy, nothing like that. And Rob is pointing out, I believe that Brock is going to be throwing a lighter football to start, not exactly the judge, which if you guys have ever put your hands on an actual NFL football, it's huge. It's very big. If you don't have big hands, then it's tough for you to grip. But if he's going to be throwing a lighter football, it's just to more test out that arm. But I think all signs are pointing to him being there for week 1 and possibly getting ramped up during training camp. And I would be shocked if he wasn't the quarterback for the dress rehearsal leading into the season. So this is all good news, Steph. No matter what it is, our feelings are about Trey Lance and Sam Darnold. My biggest problem is the fact that Trey Lance seems to be cast aside, and everybody has all this optimism about Sam Darnold, who has been objectively bad at football for a long time. But again, if you are going to just go into the season rolling with Brock Purdy and he's good, I think that's best case scenario.
Yeah, it is. And another thing I want to add is that, we as content creators, I think there's like this notion that we want drama with the quarterbacks, or like there's some people who create drama with the quarterbacks, make narratives that don't even exist just for the sake of content. I know me and Jay are on the same page. The sooner that this stuff just gets, figured out, the better. If Brock Purdy is ready week 1, great. Put him out there, man. I don't want to hear anything else about the quarterback position till hopefully like next freaking season, because it's exhausting, quite honestly. And as a fan of the team, as we are, like that's first and foremost, like how the team is doing. And if the 49ers feel that Brock Purdy is the best quarterback for the job, hell yeah, put him out there. And yeah, like I just want to see this sewed up and done with.
Seems like Steph, Jason, and Christian McCaffrey are tired of hearing about the quarterback position. Now, I think that's an important thing to talk about. So, Christian McCaffrey goes on the Rich Eisen Show, and he has this, I don't want to talk about the quarterback attitude anymore. Now, a lot of guys, I'm sure, share that sentiment on this team. I'm sure that every time they step in front of a microphone, they understand in one way or another they're going to get asked.
Here it comes.
Mm-hmm. And to be fair, same thing for us lowly content creators. If someone invites me on their show and I go on and I speak, let's say it's somebody who's not in the 49er market, I'm preparing myself to answer questions about what is going on with the quarterback position. But I thought it was refreshing for Christian McCaffrey to kind of push back on that and say, I don't want to hear about that. And he echoes our sentiment. This team is loaded. This team has a bevy of stars, a lot of young guys that we should be talking about, a culture that they've built. I would love to speak about that more and more every single day than I would quarterbacks. I don't care what anybody says. I am sick of talking about the quarterback. And I do not bank my content in any way, not on this show, not on my channel, on quarterback controversy. You know why? I want to teach a little bit more about the game. I want to talk about intricacies on film. I want to talk about players that can possibly pop. I do not bank on that at all. The reason that we discuss it over and over is because it is a talking point that cannot be ignored. The only thing that's up in the air about this team, Steph, is the quarterback. That's it. But I love that CMC said this because I feel the same way that he does.
And do we have an audio clip of it?
We do. I think Rob has it, so we don't have to paraphrase what CMC says. So, Rob, take it away.
I'm not a quarterback evaluator. I'm not People ask me all the time, "How's the quarterback?" I have no idea. I don't know mechanics. I have, no idea how to evaluate quarterbacks. But what I do know is all three of them are amazing. All three of them are great options. I talk about Brock and what he did last year, and Not just how he played, but the way he carried himself, and he's built to be a quarterback in this league. You talk about Trey. I didn't get to play with Trey last year, but from what I've seen so far, Trey's been great. You know, he's been awesome, and obviously I've played with Sam, and I know what Sam can do, and seeing all the things that he's been doing this OTAs too. I think for us, it's nice knowing that we have 3 great options. And, you know, like I said, I don't know who the quarterback's going to be. And frankly, my job is just to be as ready to go as I can for whoever it is. But I just know that, you know, we're in good hands no matter what. And I pray to God I don't have to play quarterback again.
Steph?
I pray he doesn't have to too.
I pray that also. Again, the 3rd quarterback rule, that's not a 49er rule. That is the NFL protecting their product and making sure that we don't have to watch Christian McCaffrey take snaps. But Steph, react to that.
I think it was nice. I think it was refreshing again that, you know, he's not saying more about one quarterback than the other. I think he was very fair in like spreading the compliments around. Which I posted a tweet the other day of Tim Ryan pretty much doing the same thing. And everyone's like, oh, like, of course it's all positive. He's he's hired by the 49ers. And it's like, dude, are we complaining about people saying good things about all 3 quarterbacks now? Is that where we are in this thing? Like, that's so sad. That's so freaking sad. Like, so what? You're going to say the same thing about Christian McCaffrey, just like showing love to all his teammates. You know what I mean? Like, I like it. I like it because, again, he doesn't know who's going to be the starting quarterback. And frankly, he doesn't care. He shouldn't care. His role on this team is going to be the same no matter who the quarterback is. And I think it just shows confidence in himself. It shows confidence in the offense and what Kyle Shanahan is doing. And yeah, I'm glad he's tired of the questions because, like, we are too.
I look, great job, Christian McCaffrey. I'm going to turn this show into a bit of a meme real quick. Steph, I don't know if you heard over the weekend. There's something going on with Las Vegas Raiders quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo, and his signing bonus gets eliminated, and they can cut him without owing him anything because he didn't pass a physical. Now, there's 3 stipulations, if I'm not mistaken, into how the Raiders can move on from Jimmy without having to pay him anything. 1, if he doesn't pass a physical in time for the season. 2, if he misses 3 games, I believe they can move on from him. I think that's another part of the stipulation that was thrown in there. And 3, if he re-injures that foot. Steph, I'm going to make Rob very upset. Is it time? One last ride, 10? Is it time? Bring Jimmy back home?
First of all, Jay, I blame you for this.
What?
I blame you for this.
Because I said nice things about Jimmy Garoppolo last week.
You said you loved Jimmy last week.
I can't quit him.
What happened? You manifested this, basically.
I can't quit him. And I've learned that through therapy, right? Affirmations, manifesting, tell yourself things in the mirror, look yourself in the mirror and say, you are important, you are valid, your feelings matter. One more ride, Jimmy. And I can feel Rob in the background right now, just like shaking a fist like Arthur and just getting red in the face. No, seriously. What did Rob say? What did Rob say in our group chat? I'd rather see Christian McCaffrey at quarterback. Not me. Yeah. Not me. Not me.
Yeah. I don't know about all that, but
only 49ers Twitter can take something like this and start to run with that narrative. I'm clearly joking about this. Clearly joking. I know. Right? But Steph, let's bring some sanity to the conversation. I want to ask you this. Jimmy Garoppolo's foot didn't properly heal, but he was never put on IR. And we kept hearing about he could possibly be ready to roll in the championship or the Super Bowl. Steph, would it have been the worst idea to put him on IR and maybe just pick up another quarterback who could have possibly thrown the football and maybe there wouldn't be any 3rd quarterback rule?
Right. And I honestly, I don't know what was being told to the 49ers or what information the 49ers had for them to not put him on IR. Like, were they really just hoping or thinking that he would be back? Like, I don't know. Were they getting false information? I don't know. But yeah, to your point, clearly this foot did not heal correctly and it's still an issue that's kind of alarming. But as we know, that has been the Jimmy Garoppolo experience for all the time that he was in San Francisco. And I think that's why now, looking at this happening to the Raiders, it's kind of like we knew this would happen at some point, just because, again, in like all the years Jimmy Garoppolo has been here, he's been dealing with injuries
and with the Patriots.
So it's like, all right, yeah, sign him at your own risk, pretty much. We know what was up, like we knew this was gonna happen one way or another, but for it to happen now and for it to be an issue with his first physical with the team, I mean, I think, yikes, man, like it just says everything. To have that drama with Jimmy Garoppolo already, I think, again, it's alarming, and it's unfortunate for them, but I don't know what happens. How long do you think before Davante Adams is asking for a trade? Because
I have no sympathy. I have no sympathy for Davante Adams. I have zero sympathy for him. You chose trade me to the Raiders because I want to play with my friend, and then when the Raiders do Raiders things, you're all shocked. Not to talk about, I think you should leave again, and this is not me promoting it, but the meme of the hot dog guy is literally Davante Adams. We're all looking for the guy who's responsible for this. You look yourself in the mirror and say, I wanted money. I wanted to play with my friend. Well, guess what? You got it, pal. Don't complain, and I don't want to hear it at all from him. I do not want to hear it. You had your choice. You said, I was sick of playing with Aaron Rodgers. I want to play with my friend. And then when the Raiders do Raider things, you're looking around like, what on earth is going on? Blame yourself and shut up, bro. I don't want to hear anything from Davante Adams. You don't get to ask for a trade now. You don't get to do any of this. You are the reason that you're in this spot. You. Sorry, Steph. Had to go off on him.
No.
I despise this idea that, poor Davante Adams. Yeah, he's not poor. He's rich. And he chose to go there. So that's your fault. Now you get what you deserve. That's it.
But I just it would not shock me if he did ask for a trade at some point in the season, if this Jimmy Garoppolo fiasco, goes into the season. Because who's their backup? Brian Hoyer?
Brian Hoyer, 49ers legend, and then Aiden O'Connell is their guy.
What year is it, man?
What do you mean? The Patriots?
How is he still in the league? That's so wild to me. Like,
the Patriots are putting on their friends. Josh McDaniel, Jimmy Garoppolo, Brian Hoyer. It's all a vicious cycle of buddy system and what you think you can do for your friends. And I played with you. And, at least the sanity with this, with Josh McDaniels, is Josh McDaniels was getting ready to gear this offense to Jimmy Garoppolo because he believed he was about to be next behind Tom Brady. So you at least have that. But Brian Hoyer is the guy behind you because he's got a lot of moxie, brings his lunch pail. Whatever, he's a gym rat. Whatever it is you want to say about Brian Hoyer, they're always going to find a way to make that happen. And again, I think a little bit to it is just Brian Hoyer has a great football mind. He just doesn't have an arm to sling it. And sometimes, both don't go hand in hand. There's a lot of guys who have great arms, can't really think. There's guys who can think that don't have great arms, and that's kind of Brian Hoyer. But just to kind of cap this whole Jimmy Garoppolo meme topic, I actually want him to succeed. I want him to do well. I hope all this gets figured out. It's unfortunate that this is happening. It's unfortunate that this foot hasn't healed properly. There is a chance that he might not make any money, and then all of a sudden he's going to be back on the street. It's unfortunate, man. And I, no matter how much we joke, no matter how many jokes I throw or anything like that, I want to see the guy succeed. I don't have any bad feelings towards him or anything like that. I mean, I remember I choose, it's like a breakup, right? Like we keep talking about, it's like a breakup. I choose to remember the good times and just hold on to that as opposed to, well, whatever, good, I don't care. Like I don't have that attitude. It is the Raiders' problem, but I don't wish ill on Jimmy at all.
And for all the people that are like, oh, like you never liked Jimmy Garoppolo when he was here, but you're still talking about him. Like you said, Jay, it's like a breakup. It's like, yeah, I might have known that this was not going to last forever, but I'm still curious. Like, I'm curious to know what happens with you after me. You know what I mean? Like, it's just human nature.
It's Stockholm syndrome, right? When you're held up with your kidnapper for so long. You grow an affinity for them. And it's like you're like, oh, this is so toxic. I have to get out of this. But you go and you look on their Instagram page just to see if they're dating somebody else. Like, what's going on over here?
And we all know you're toxic, Jay.
What? Absolutely not, man. I can't believe
Jay had he sent us a picture of like a mug in Ray Dunn font, mind you, that says toxic on it. I didn't even know they made those.
It was a gift.
It was a good one. It was
a gift from somebody who knows me very well. Anyway, I am not on trial here. Let's move on. So DeAndre Hopkins gets cut by the Arizona Cardinals, and we should laugh at that a little bit, Steph. $22 million in dead cap, and the reason a lot of people are wondering, why didn't they use the June 1st post designation, the cut designation? They wasted it on 2 other players. They didn't have it for DeAndre Hopkins. Holy clown car organization, Steph. What the hell are the Cardinals thinking?
This is such a poorly ran team. Like it's hard to fathom. Like, who is running this place? Like a child? Like it's really unfathomable. I can't wrap my head around how they drop the bag like this. I mean, I think when DeAndre Hopkins was there, and this is why I feel like Hopkins' situation is slightly different than that of Devontae Adams, because I think when Hopkins did go to the Cardinals, there was some hope. Like, they looked like they could be a good team because, you know, they had Kyler Murray, you know, say what you want about Cliff Kingsbury, but I think things looked positive for Cliff Kingsbury before we got a really good look at him. Like, people just thought it was going to be a good offense and whatnot. So, you know, I kind of feel for Hopkins because he essentially wasted, you know, a few years of his career. Now a little bit older, you know, now I think he's really looking for certain things in his situation, right? That most players at this point in their career are looking for, which is, you know, want to play with a good quarterback, a team that has a good defense, you know, a team with a good structure, good organization, you know, that clearly that's a must, because I think he pointed out he's had like 3 or 4 different GMs since he's in all the teams that he's been on. That's crazy. So I think he just wants stability, and, you know, let's face it, he wants a ring too, right? So, and he's still to this day, he's still one of the most talented receivers in the NFL, right? So, Jay, do you feel like, based on the things that DeAndre Hopkins has said, like he's looking for in a team, do you feel like the 49ers fit that description?
Some of that, except for the fact that we still don't have stability at the quarterback position. And it's funny to hear DeAndre Hopkins. It's so funny to hear DeAndre Hopkins go on the I Am Athlete podcast and say, it's like a newly single guy. Well, here's my list of women I'd like to date. Rihanna, Salma Hayek.
Yeah,
and
like
it's
a list, laminated and shit.
Right. Like, it's like, okay, he lists like Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, pal, I get why you would probably want to play with them, but do they have time to sign you? So it's funny to me to hear that. Like, literally his 5 quarterbacks that he talked about wanting to play with are literally probably the top 5 quarterbacks in the league in one form or fashion. And I do think it's kind of funny that he brought that up. But there was a report that just came out. I'm not sure if it's substantiated, but sounds like the Bills and the Chiefs are in a arms race for DeAndre Hopkins. This isn't the 49ers idea. They're not going to go after him. So let's put that one to bed at least. But my thing is, at 31, and I hate to bring this up because he's literally my favorite player and he's not, you know, signed anywhere. Julio Jones starts to show signs of declining in 31, right? Like 31 years old. And Hopkins wasn't bad at all by any stretch of the imagination last year, especially given he's quarterback proof. I mean, the man's played with Brian Hoyer, you know, Matt Schaub, and you know, Colt McCoy. He's quarterback proof because he's that good of a receiver. He doesn't win in a way where it blows your mind how fast he is. He's a savvy route runner. But it seems like it's the Bills and the Chiefs. I want to ask you this. The New England Patriots, Bill O'Brien's their offensive coordinator?
But again, like, does that fit what he's looking for? The Patriots? Are they in a spot right now where they are competing, you know, in a division that has the Bills and the Dolphins? They're the best team there.
I'd ask this.
Jets good too.
The only reason I bring them up is because, and he did post, I think he did post a Jet, a Jet logo on his Instagram story and deleted it or something like that as well too. The only reason is this, is I would ask, what's important to you, DeAndre Hopkins? Do you want to win or do you want one last paycheck? And he could look at Odell Beckham's contract of 1 year, $15 million, fully guaranteed by the Baltimore Ravens off of an injury and say, hey, wait a minute. I've been largely durable aside from this year and the PED suspension. What about me?
He's absolutely looking at that contract, and who wouldn't? Like, who wouldn't? And that's the thing. Like, teams who make these decisions screw up every other team, and essentially every other free agent, because it's like, no, like, we're not gonna do that for you. We're not gonna give you that contract. But who knows? Maybe someone will. We don't know. Quite frankly, I agree with you, Jay, that the 49ers, I don't think would be in the market for DeAndre Hopkins. Sure, I think you consider it, you talk about it, have a conversation, a phone call about it, whatnot. Sure. But, I really don't see that happening for the sake of, like, from the standpoint of being a lover of football and watching the game. I would love to see DeAndre Hopkins on the Chiefs. Like, I just think that would be so insane. Don't hate me for saying that.
It's fine.
As a lover of football, it's like, who doesn't want to see that? And fantasy football, you know.
You can't get in the way. You can't get in the way of my Sky Moore propaganda. That's the thing. But I did want to ask you that, and I'm glad you brought up the Chiefs. Best case scenario, in my opinion, is him going to the AFC and helping out one of those teams, because then that's your issue.
Manifest
if you make
that.
Right. If you make it to the game in February, worst case scenario, Steph, is the Philadelphia Eagles find a way to sign DeAndre Hopkins.
Don't say that. Don't put that out into the universe. You know what I mean? Like, we can't even be saying these things out loud.
I know. All right. Look, I'm gonna put good things out in the universe. Salma Hayek, it's okay. Come home. The kids miss you. Like, I'm gonna start putting stuff like that out there, because I already put the Jimmy stuff out there, and now all that's happening. Yeah, look what happened. No, but that is worst case scenario. Like, Dallas, I feel like, is out of the running because they addressed it with Brandon Cooks. And the Eagles have an upstart quarterback. They have an offense. Again, I don't know how the Eagles make this work with their cap space. I wouldn't doubt Howie Roseman, but just go to the AFC, dude. Just get away. Just go to the AFC. Do not help anyone in the NFC, least of all the Philadelphia Eagles. That's my biggest fear, Steph.
But, like, yeah, I mean, he's going to go wherever he sees fit, whatever's the best spot for him. Eagles, of course, would be an attractive team to him. So, yeah, let's just hope that's not the case. We need the Chiefs, the Bills, some other AFC team to throw in the bag, and so he'll be happy over there. And we'll be happy over here.
Yeah. Bottom line, he's not going to be here, unfortunately. That's just not part of their plans. But just go to the AFC, Hopkins. I want the best for you, but I don't want the best for you in a way that can hurt the 49ers. So, speaking of that, DeAndre Hopkins is a free agent. Jimmy Garoppolo might be a free agent. But the 49ers do have about $10 million in cap space laying around, Steph, right now at this point. Mm-hmm. I think we've kind of talked about the options. You hold on to that money just in case in the middle of the season, someone gets injured and you can make a move and you're able to add somebody into your team. Or maybe right before training camp, there's one of these edge guys that you can sign and said, I don't want to do OTAs. I don't want to do minicamp. I've earned that. What do you think here? Looking at this list, I mean, Dalton Risner, guard, Teddy Bridgewater, Yannick Ngakoue, Jadeveon Clowney, Leonard Floyd, Melvin Ingram, Frank Clark, Justin Houston, Marcus Peters, and Jimmy G.
I'm definitely looking at the edge guys, and we've talked about this topic a couple of times, and so, like, I'm not going to beat a dead horse, to continue talking about the edge guys, but I will add, yes, they have about $10 million in free money right now, but they could create even more when they get Nick Bosa's deal done.
And that'll get done right before camp.
Exactly. So I think maybe then is when you can start looking at someone if they feel like they need an edge. If maybe Drake Jackson is not looking like a guy who can take that second-year leap and can handle, the duties of being the starter opposite Bosa, maybe then. Or, I mean, we've talked about it. They can bring it into the season as well because injuries happen. Also, you can wait after the cuts, the 53 cuts to 53, because there will be some big names that this happens every year. There are some big names who end up getting cut, and those guys suddenly will be available as well, right? So I think it's smart for the 49ers, I think, to wait and hold on to their money until there's someone who, they can't really refuse, who they know can really help this team.
Yeah, again, saving money for a rainy day, that's just good life advice. Now, in the NFL, that's probably even better advice for a team that if there is an injury or if there is a player on an expiring contract, a la the way the Rams did it with Von Miller, that you can bring in for a year that kind of pushes and signifies an all-in move, right? That is something that you can absolutely do. I do think that the 49ers are banking on Drake Jackson based on everything that we've heard. He's bulked up. We won't know how he looks until the pads go on. Right now, you can't see any of that in OTAs. But I do think it's interesting that there are all of these options out there for the 49ers, and it is kind of their world at this point. And to your point about Nick Bosa, that's going to clear a bunch of more money. So they'll have a lot to play around with. So they could do one of three things. Hold on to that money, see what happens, and if they need to, they'll make a move. They could even carry that into next year with a cap increase as well, too, which could probably pave the road for Brandon Ayuk to stay. So they have a lot of things on their docket, what they can do with this. So I do think it's interesting. I do think it's an interesting discussion. And it just seems like as of right now, the 49ers are very much content with Drake Jackson, Austin Bryant, Clelin Ferrell, Kerry Hyder, that rotation on the other side, and banking on either a rotation or Drake Jackson taking that lead, being a 3-down guy. If I was looking at a 3-down guy that you can find in that group that was just on the screen, it would probably be Leonard Floyd. That is the guy that can, be on run defense and not just a pass rush specialist. If you're looking straight up pass rush specialist, then it's Justin Houston, I think, because as you saw, and I've discussed this many times, in Baltimore the last 2 years, the first year he was an every down lineman, he had about 8 sacks. The next year it goes up to 13 and the pressures go up when he becomes a pass rushing specialist. So again, it all depends on what the 49ers are trying to do. Right now, I think they are content, but it is interesting and intriguing that they have all these options available.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, another point, if we're looking at defensive line, which, I think because of the amount of guys that left on the defensive line, I'm not going to say it's like not as strong as it was last year because we just don't know, but it's definitely one of those positions that I think has the most question marks going into the off season or going into OTAs, training camp, and all that, just because we don't know, right? There's a lot of new faces there. So I would even say like Javon Kinlaw, with the reports of him losing a lot of weight, he's slimmed down. Like, is that going to work out? Like that could be good for him, but that could also backfire, right? So could they be looking at an interior guy, right? Like all these things on the defensive line, I think we could see some shuffling through training camp, through, going into the 53 and all that. So I'm keeping an eye on that one for sure.
Yeah, and to Rob's point that he just sent out, the 49ers have a first-round pick. Rob, do not manifest the 49ers trading a first-round pick. I would like nothing better.
I want one.
I want to scout. I want to scout blue chip talent again. I want to stop looking for these gems in the 3rd round and 4th round. I want to start looking at guys that I can plant my flag and say the most obvious thing. This guy's going to be a really good football player because usually, first rounders have the best chance of being that.
You're so smart, Jay.
Right, exactly. Man, I always knew Nick Bosa was going to be good at football. Always. Like, no duh, good job. But I would love to go back to that and watching first-round talent again. I think that's something that we took for granted, and then we had these 3 years where we had to look into all this. So I want – oh, God, Brett. Unbelievable, man. Like, I love you, Brett, but will you stop it, man? I don't want to talk about this anymore. But
can I say something really quick? I literally had a dream last night that like people were like advocating for the 49ers to sign a 3rd kicker for whatever reason. I don't even know. And then I complained about it on Twitter, and then like my mentions were on fire. This is just a dream I had. I'm just saying.
Now who's manifesting? You're starting to see into the future now. I mean, again, if you're talking about the 49ers' favorite words, convicted, insulating, how could you not insulate yourself with a 3rd kicker, right? Brandon McManus comes available. You should have brought him in immediately. You bring Brandon McManus in, and you turn this thing into a 3-way, like have them settle it in a cage match. The one who leaves the cage is the kicker. Forget how well he kicks or where you drafted any of these guys. But seriously, the Brandon McManus thing is kind of to my point about finding kickers on the street. Because Brandon McManus did nothing but be a good kicker for the Denver Broncos, and then he becomes available. So whatever. Not to beat a
I
dead
will
horse.
argue that McManus is not as good as people thought, just because kickers have an easier time in Denver because the
Denver,
air is so dry
Mile
and
High.
thin. Yes. So I'll say that.
Well, to be fair, Robbie Gould was sent away from Chicago with pitchforks and flaming torches, and then all of a sudden, after they got double doinked, Robbie, come back!
Double doinked.
No. So again, the fluctuation with kickers and how they go, whatever. It's funny. But back to the free agent portion, I do think again an edge would benefit this team, but an edge shouldn't be brought in the face of developing Drake Jackson and taking away reps from him. And I think that's probably another reason the 49ers are staying away from that.
And just wait. Like, you could just wait, see what you have with Drake Jackson first. Like, I think that's smart because you get the reps, you get enough of a sample size to see what he's looking like and make a decision from there. So I don't know. I don't even know if they end up getting a defensive lineman. If they don't, I'm going to take it as a good sign.
Okay. And you mentioned Javon Kinlaw. Are we doing this again this year?
What? Yeah.
Are we doing
Why not? I mean, because I'm seeing the reports. Like, I'm seeing the reports that he's skinny this year. I'm not buying into the hype.
That's what I'm saying. Like, are we?
No.
Is it?
I've never bought into the hype.
The content creators will take that picture and it'll be Kinlaw season loading, year 4 loading. And it's like, dude, come on, man. We just want you. We just need you to stay on the field. Just play a little bit. Like, put some tape out there more than anything. It's always breakout season loading, right? Like all of those things. Like one guy catches a pass, year 3 loading. It's like he has like 3 catches his entire career. What are you talking about? Like who is this?
Why is everything loading? Like we never see like the end result. It's like when you're downloading something on like old PC and it's like stuck at 99. Like
look, Danny Gray season loading. Breakout season loading. Honestly,
we're waiting for it to finish loading. That's
Danny Gray, Ambry Thomas, Ty Davis Price, Javon Kinlaw. You're all on watch. You're all on the clock right now. You are all on the clock right now with this roster. And one of them was a first-round pick. The other were all third-round picks. But, yeah, I just think that's funny. I've always noticed that. Breakout season loading, year 4 loading. What are we like, dude? Like, we have a sample size already at this point. Unfortunately, the guy, I don't want to talk crazy about Kinlaw because he's a massive human being, and I don't need that Minotaur picking me up and just body slamming me if he sees me. But it's just funny to me. It's just, again, we love this team, everybody does, but the over optimistic views of players that have given you no reason to feel optimistic. We just want to see you on the field and just play a little bit. That's all.
It's just the bare minimum.
Just a bare minimum. All right, Steph, I think this is a good episode. We had a discussion earlier about like what we're going to talk about. I think we got to almost 40 minutes, so that's pretty good. Yeah. So Sam Darnold season loading. Oh my God, man! Goodness gracious! You know that clip last week of me talking about being frustrated that everybody talked about Sam Darnold being the former 3rd pick and nobody's saying that about Trey Lance. We had someone in our mentions. I don't know, man. I guess it was like a betting guy or something like that. And he's like, it's because Trey Lance sucks. And I'm like, it took everything. And this is growth, Steph. This is growth. It took everything in me to not reply to him and say, are you really caping for a guy who actually sucks and has 55 interceptions in his entire life, like in 55 turnovers? And then I went through his profile, and of course, 35 of his 55 interceptions they were behind. Yeah. Well, when you fumble the ball to the team and in your red zone and they score, oh well, it's the consequence of my own actions. I'm just it's another ridiculous take, man. It's just, again, people finding ways to push whatever narrative they want. 35 of his 55 interceptions were when they were behind. You probably made them get behind by not being good on offense, making your defense run back out there, or possibly turning the ball over. Ridiculous sentiments. Ridiculous. But, Steph, good episode. Appreciate you. And make sure you guys are following Gold Standard Podcast Network wherever you get your audio podcast. Make sure you're subscribed to the Gold Standard Network on YouTube. My channel, Jason Aponte. Steph's channel, @Steph49K. Make sure you're following her on Twitter at the same name as well, too. Steph, we got a website launching? Is that what the streets are saying?
That's what the streets are saying. And it's the launch of the ages. Everyone's waiting for this. And what's the URL? Remind me the URL.
goldstandard49ers.com, or I believe. I mean, Rob will put it up on there, and
like
we
an
should know,
all-timer.
right? We're just terrible employees, I think, more than anything, more than anything. And maybe, finally you'll get your bio sent in, which, we'll get
Hey,
Rob.
I sent my bio.
No,
Rob,
that's not what I heard.
Rob,
No, that's not what I heard.
get the
Rob,
bio,
bleep it out.
Rob.
GoStandardNiners.com launches tomorrow. Make sure you guys check that out as well, too. So, perfect place to end this. Thank you so much. Again, subscribe to all the channels. Make sure you're tapped in Gold Standard Podcast Network. We're getting real close to actual football and training camp and mini camp, all that stuff. 100 days to kickoff. 100. So we're getting there.
Counting
all right,
down
Steph?
the days.
Oh, God. Can't wait. So for Steph, for Jay, we're out of here.
Peace.